Hey guys, I am going to talk to you about books today. As you can see, the shelves behind me have been rated and I am surrounded by books on the floor. And I'm going to show you which books have been our favorites for each of the categories. And I'm going to try to do it fast because I have a ton of books to show you. But one of the things that I found is when I started looking for books for my kids, I would look up best children's books or best books about science, and often the same books would come up. And I found that it was really hard to find books other than The Very Hungry Caterpillar or Goodnight Moon or Where the Wild Things Are. And those are great books, but I wanted some variety and I knew that there must be other great ones out there. So these are the ones that we have found. Some of them you've probably heard of, some of them maybe not, and hopefully most of them will be new to you and to give you some ideas. So I'm going to start first with the books for younger kids. And one of my favorites when I was growing up is this Richard Scarry book, I Am a Bunny. And I don't know if you've seen this before, but the book goes through the seasons. So it's really great for little kids who are trying to learn the seasons. And the artwork is just gorgeous. I absolutely love the artwork in this book. And it's just this little bunny and what he loves about the different seasons. And it takes you through him gazing at the sky, watching frogs, sitting under a toadstool, and I just love the colors. It's a beautiful book. Richard Scarry is going to be a common theme for us because my kids also love all of these books as well. So we've got Richard Scarry's Best Word Book Ever, and this is so great for kids who are just learning how to talk, because there are so many different pictures that you can read with them and point at them, and it's really, really good for language development and building their vocabulary. Richard Scarry is just awesome for that, and they're books that I had growing up. They're just amazing. Best Word Book Ever is all-time favorite for my guys, as well as Cars and Trucks and Things That Go, and then What Do People Do All Day. These are definitely the top three favorites. But Busy Busy World is also really good if you're wanting to teach your kids about different countries, and it's a pretty silly book, but it does teach them about different countries and flags. And then we've got one called The Great Big Air Book, all about how different things fly, and those are probably the ones that get read and used the absolute most of the Richard Scarry books in our house. And we do have a few others, but these ones are the favorites. So I highly recommend those ones. Now, speaking of developing language, I also wanted to go over some books that are great for teaching kids how to read. And the ones that we used are the Usborne Phonics Readers. And these are really good because it uses phonics. And so this one says Fat Cat on a Mat. So obviously your kids are going to be learning the A sound in this book. And there's lots of repetition and lots of simple words for them to get used to those sounds. So there's a whole series of them, and it's fairly inexpensive. That's one of the reasons why I really like these. And so an example, Big Pig on a Dig, Fat Cat on a Mat, Fox on a Box. So really going over those sounds until the kids really know them. Now, I have heard, I haven't tried it myself, but there's something called Bob's Books or Bob Books, and apparently those are really good for teaching kids how to read. Now, these ones worked perfectly for my kids, so I haven't had to go out and find something else. But if your child is struggling at all, I might check out Bob Books first, because I've just heard really good things about it. Okay, also the last one I'll show you for learning how to read is this Go Dog Go book. It is just so fun and lots of repetition, and my kids could read it over and over and over again. And that's really what you want with books, is ones that they're going to come back to because they really enjoy reading it. And it follows these dogs all throughout their activities. Really good for teaching above and below, night and day. And it's just so silly. This was a favorite of mine when I was a little girl. I'm pretty sure that it's on my mom's list of favorite books. and it's just a classic. My kids have all really loved Go Dog Go. Highly recommend that one. Now, those are the books that are more simple for learning how to read. And actually, before I show you this one, I'll show you these as well. So those ones are a bit more simple, but as your child gets a little bit better and able to grasp reading, we have really, really loved the Elephant and Piggie books. And as you can see, this one is completely falling apart because my kids have read it over and over so much. But this is called An Elephant and Piggie Biggie. And it is so silly and so funny. And it's just about this elephant and pig who are best friends and the things that they do together. And the words on the pages are pretty simple, and there are not many words to each page. And like I say, it's just ridiculous and silly. And those are by Mo Willems. And he also does the Pigeon books, which are also silly and not very many words on a page. Pretty simple books and really good for beginner readers. My kids loved those. Now, once your child is more advanced in reading, I also really like this P is for Pterodactyl, the worst alphabet book ever. I've just introduced my 8-year-old to this one, and he thinks it's really, really great and funny because it goes through the ways that English just doesn't make any sense. So like, for instance, E is for ewe. And then it says, Eileen the ewe was so euphoric the wolves were eaten. She even gave the eulogy. So just all the different ways that we use the word E that just doesn't make any sense. K is for knight. The noble knight's knife nicked the knave's knee. So all these different ways that we use these different letters in the alphabet, really good for learning how to spell those words that can be kind of difficult to remember how to spell. And it says all the letters that misbehave and make words nearly impossible to pronounce. So this is a great one for those words that can be tough. So those are my favorite learn to read books. I will also go over these ones. These are also going to be simple books, but these are my family's favorite funny books. So ones that have made them laugh out loud or they just really enjoy coming back to because they're just really silly. This one's called Robert the Rose Horse. This was a favorite of mine, again, when I was a little girl. And it's this little, it's this horse that is allergic to roses. And he discovers that he's allergic to roses because he sneezes so loud and so hard that he starts destroying things. So he goes off to find a job, and how it just follows him trying to find work in the city and the problems that arise because he is allergic to roses. And it's a really silly, cute book that my kids keep coming back to. Robert the Rose Horse, really good one. Boy Soup is one that I found. It's about this giant who gets sick, and apparently boy soup is what giants need when they get sick. And it's got really, really great illustrations. So he goes out and he steals some boys to make soup out of them, and it's about how they are able to escape from him. And so yeah, this book is great because it rhymes, and they're really, really clever lyrical rhymes. So I'll read this to you. Let's see. Yeah, he says, I am sore, I am sick, I feel awful, he said. He coughed, moving mountains. He hacked, causing quakes. He said with a whimper, my everything aches. Groaning, he shoveled his blankets aside and reached for his giant's home medical guide. So really, really fun rhymes. And I've often said when I've been sick, oh, my everything aches. And I love this book. It's really clever and fun. This is called Stuck. It's by Oliver Jeffers. He has a lot of really, really fun books. And this one is about a little boy who gets his kite stuck in a tree and about how he tries to get it unstuck. And really funny. There were times where my kids were just giggling so much to themselves. I Want My Hat Back. This is by John Clausen. It's about a bear who's looking for his hat, and it ends in a really funny way and catches you kind of off guard. So I highly recommend this one. He actually, I'll tell you, I'll spoil it for you. He finds the bunny that took his hat and he eats the bunny. But yeah, it's not graphic at all. Really funny book. The monster at the end of this book. This is again another classic, but it's got Grover and he's scared of the monster the entire way through this book until the end when he realizes that he's actually the monster at the end of the book. And again, another really fun one to read. The Book with No Pictures. I'm sure a lot of you will have heard of this one, but my kids laugh so hard when we read it. It's definitely worth mentioning for those who haven't heard of it before, by B.J. Novak. And there truly are no pictures in this book, but it takes the adult reading the book through it with the child, and it makes the adult say all these really silly, weird things, and it's really, kids love it. The Day the Crayons Quit. This has a series that are really fun. It's all about the crayons and how they're about to quit because they've just had it with being used in the way that they're being used. My kids love, love, love the Christmas version of this. It's in my downstairs in my Christmas boxes with the rest of our Christmas books. But definitely the Christmas version is so much fun. And this one is really great too. They love all of them. Okay, so those are my kids' favorite funny ones. And I'm at 11 minutes. So I am going to move on to the human body. We've got this human body, a fascinating see-through view of how our bodies work. And it's great because it goes into quite a bit of detail and also has this fun overlapping picture of how it works. This one has been around for a long, long time, tried and true, a really good book. But, so that's one of my favorites. This one you may have heard of. This is really, really good. It's a book about eggs, sperm, births, babies, and families, and it's called It's So Amazing. And it takes kids through the process of how babies are made. So if you're struggling to know how to bring it up with your kids, this is awesome. I highly recommend this book. And it does have pictures of what human bodies look like. So be warned that that is some of the pictures that are going to be in the book, that it's very anatomically correct. And it does say that it's for ages 7 and up, and I would recommend 7 and up, although I think my 6-year-old can handle it. He probably could have handled it at 5. He's totally fine with what the human body looks like. So depends on your child, but really good book about different parts of the body and what they're used for. Now, there is a sequel to that one called It's Perfectly Normal, and this is for ages 10 and up, and I would really listen personally to the age on this one because it does get a lot more into sex, and it talks about sexual health, and it talks about consent, and I'll read you actually the contents. It says, what is sex, our bodies, puberty, families and babies, decisions, and staying healthy. So I would listen to the age for this one, for ages 10 and up, and but I highly recommend it. It goes into really good detail, and it gives opportunities to discuss with your kids about these difficult topics, and might open up opportunity for them to ask questions that they might not have thought of. So these two books are really, really good for discussions about the birds and the bees and bringing it up in an easy, natural way. Okay. My Mixed Emotions. This is a book that I went looking for because I couldn't find a book that talked about emotions, particularly anger. I have 3 boys, and anger was definitely something that needed to be addressed in my home. And so I went looking for this because I found that a lot of books that talked about emotions only talked about what it feels like to have the emotions and doesn't talk about what to do with them. And so that's what I really needed The back says, what is going on inside your heart and your head? Happiness, fear, anger, sadness. With so many feelings to feel, it's easy to get tangled up. Unmix your feelings with my mixed emotions as you learn how to recognize, express, and deal with each one. You'll soon discover that feelings are your friends. You just have to get to know them. Really, really good book about all the feelings and how to deal with them. I also really like these books. I Am Love, about a book about compassion, really talks well about how to help others who might be struggling and having what they call a gray day. And beautiful pictures again, and a great book about friendship. I Am Peace is a book about mindfulness and how to take your body down from an elevated state to grounding yourself and recognizing and feeling where you're at, and getting back into a good mindset. So this is called I Am Peace by the same author of I Am Love, Susan Baird. So those two are really good. Another one about feelings, Fred Rogers. I really love Fred Rogers and his story. And this book tells the story of Fred Rogers, and it's fascinating and really great if you have a child who's been bullied or has low self-esteem. This is a great book about that, and it talks about how that happened to him as a child and how he overcame it and moved on to do the Mr. Rogers show, and the story of that. Love this book. Okay, The Story of Ferdinand is a classic, and sure lots of you know about it, but I thought it was worth mentioning, about a bull who prefers to be kind and nice instead of fighting. And then this one, Have You Filled a Bucket Today? Oh, my goodness, I know there are lots of books, but these ones are just really, really good. Have You Filled a Bucket Today? It's a guide to daily happiness for kids. Talks about everybody has a bucket of good feelings, and you can either put into your bucket or take out of your bucket by the good things that you do, or you can put into other people's buckets by being kind to them, or you can take out of their buckets by your negative actions. So this one has actually helped my family a lot, and I highly recommend it. And this one is Be Who You Are. And I like this one because it talks about how everybody is different. I'm not a huge fan of the artwork. It's not my cup of tea personally, but I will say that my kids have learned from it that it's important to be who they are, and that who they are is perfect for them. So a really good message in that book. The Kissing Hand is just a really, really sweet book about Chester Raccoon and his first day of school. And he's scared to go to school. He's not sure how it will be. So his mom gives him a kiss on his hand. And she says, anytime that you're feeling scared or you miss me, just put your hand to your face and you'll have a kiss from me. And I have snuggled with my kids and kissed their hands while reading this book, and it's just has a sweet place in my heart, and I'm sure that it'll be great for all parents and their kids to snuggle up together and read. Okay, so that gets me through the learning to read books, the really funny books, and then the books about feelings and your body. Now, I have some book sets that also talk about those things. And so I'll show you my favorite book sets. Now, these ones, this is a big one. So these ones are the Usborne Lift the Flap books. And these are great for kids who really enjoy lifting the flap and finding out information behind them. So the ones that we have are questions and answers about your body. Lift the Flap periodic table. My kids know so much more about the periodic table than I do even at this age because of that book. And I'll show you another one about the periodic table as well. Questions and answers about dinosaurs, about time, about food, about long ago, about science, about nature, about animals, about space, and then there's one about engineering. And there's also apparently one about politics. that I want to get, and I'm expecting to learn quite a lot from that book. And that's this thing about a lot of these learning books, is I've actually learned so much from them, and I'm amazed at how much my kids are soaking up because of them. So yes, these Lift the Flap questions and answer books by Usborne are really great, and I highly, highly recommend them. Now, they give you kind of a surface explanation of things. It's quite thorough, but it is pretty surface. It doesn't go into depth. So for more in-depth, the series by Encyclopedia Britannica. I really like this series for more in-depth stuff. So we've got one for about humans, about under the sea, space, the earth, dinosaurs, reptiles, and birds, and then animals in general. So Encyclopedia Britannica has a really good set for a little bit more in-depth on a lot of the same topics as the Usborne Lift the Flap books. Now, with that being said, I also have books that go in depth about other things more deeply. Having a Scholastic Atlas has been really great. My kids will often ask questions about different parts of the world, and so we go look them up in the Atlas, and it gives a really good overview of the different areas and places that it highlights, talks about population and how long do people live in that area. So it goes into a lot of variety of detail. And that has been my favorite Atlas book. And we have a few Atlas books and a few books about the world, but that definitely is my favorite. And speaking of the Earth, we've got a guide to Savage Earth. And this is one that I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about, but my kids read it constantly. It's in our van. I find it everywhere because they're always bringing it with them. They love reading about natural disasters, and this is just a really, really good one for that. Even has stuff about climate change in it, and it's an older book. So yeah, Guide to Savage Earth, a dramatic journey across the planet. They just love it. This one, Big and Busy, Where Things Come From. I was surprised by this book. I got it secondhand at a thrift store, wasn't really sure if anybody would like it, but my kids devour it because it talks about, where flour comes from. It talks about where we get gas for our cars, where rice comes from, all of those things, how cheese is made. Now, I say I'm surprised by this book because when I went online, ours is really beat up because they've used it so much, so I went online to try to buy it again, and it's like an $80 book. It's become really popular, and in fact, if you have any experience with testing for advanced children or giftedness, a lot of the answers on that test you would find in this book. And I wasn't expecting that at all. So this was a really interesting find that I had no idea that it would be as good as it is. But the Big and Busy Where Things Come From has just been really cool. Discover where everyday things come from and how they are made. So that's a good one. Okay, we talked a little bit about animals. Just a little bit though, but I'll show you these books. These are, again, some of my kids' favorites. What if you had animal eyes? What if you had animal teeth? What if you had animal feet? What if you had an animal nose? What if you had animal ears? A really good series. It goes into the differences between human eyes and all the different kinds of animal eyes or nose or feet or whichever book you're reading. And I had no idea that the variations were so interesting. These are books that I all of the time love reading to my kids because I'm just fascinated by how incredibly different our bodies are from animals and how impressive different animal bodies are. So my kids love these books. Really good artwork. You can, it takes you through children who have these different body parts attached to them. And so yeah, you can see like what if you had a giant anteater nose, and has really good different facts about each one. So I really recommend this series. Really, really popular in my family. Okay, so now we get to more of the learning books. Some of my favorite, I call these the STEM books. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And they are, some of my favorites are these ones. So if you haven't heard of Andrea Beatty, she does books about STEM. So this one is Iggy Peck Architect, Ada Twist Scientist, Sofia Valdez Future Prez, and Rosie Revere Engineer. This is her first one out and probably my favorite. They take you through these kids who have these interests in different areas. And again, they're rhyming books and just really, really clever. And I love these books. For more science, these ones you might not think are that good, but they are. I've learned stuff from these books, and my 8-year-old will still sit down with them because it gives a super, super simple explanation for what these different scientific things are. So astrophysics for babies, general relativity for babies, ABCs of mathematics, ABCs of space, rocket science for babies, ABCs of biology, and quantum physics for babies. Really, really brief overview, simple explanations of what they are, and I learned lots of stuff while reading them. Not just for babies, they're definitely for the older as well. These ones are the Wells of Knowledge Science series. How do you lift a lion? So it talks about pulleys and levers. And then, is a blue whale the biggest thing there is? This is really good for comparing different sizes of things, and it goes all the way from something that's really small to, well, I guess comparatively, a blue whale. It talks about a blue whale being the biggest animal there is, and then all the way to the universe. And then I said that I have another book about the periodic table. This is another one that I went hunting for and found that this was the best one that I found. It's a beginner's guide to the periodic table, and it has really great pictures and goes into it in a kid-friendly way, and your kids can learn about what the periodic table is in a way that is understandable for them. We're almost done here. These books are about math. My mom actually found these ones at Value Village, and my kids love them. This is Circumference and the Dragon of Pi. So it follows this boy in medieval times and takes you through teaching you about different mathematical terms. So Circumference and the Dragon of Pi, Circumference and the Great Knight of Angleland, Circumference and the Sword in the Cone, Circumference and the Isle of Immature. Then we've got this Holy Cow, Fractions Are Fun. My kids learned what fractions are from this book. And Count to a Million, and just gives you, or your kids, able to visualize the difference between 1 all the way to a million. And it's got great pictures to show the difference between 1 and a million. Okay, the last thing that I will leave off with. These books are great for developing curiosity and an imagination for ideas and being an inventor. Not a Box is a super, super simple book, but it just talks about how this rabbit has a box, and everybody says, "What are you doing with that box?" And he says, "It's not a box, it's actually a race car or a rocket ship," just what he's using his imagination for. So it just helps to encourage the idea that you can create and pretend with lots of different things. If I Built a Car is about a boy who talks about this cool, awesome car that has all these great features to it and what it would be like if he built one. This is part of a series. There's also If I Built a House, If I Built a Spaceship. So that's a really good one for getting the imagination going again. And I'll leave with The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. This is one of my all-time favorite books. It's about a boy in Africa who built a windmill for his town. It teaches about ingenuity, about creativity, about taking the lead. It really helps kids understand that in different parts of the world, things are very different and people have it pretty tough in other parts of the world. And that there are things that they can do to help, and that they need to be aware of that. So really, really, really important book in my mind, and I loved this one. And my kids love it too. It's another one that they bring back to me time and time again. So those are the favorite books in my family. We have so many books. There are so many that I didn't show you, but these are definitely the ones that my kids come back to time and time again. I hope that this gives you some ideas for your personal book library, and that your children will enjoy reading and get so much fulfillment out of the books that they do read that it becomes a lifelong love for them. Thanks if you got this far for watching. I hope it was beneficial for you.